When I played the recording for everyone at that restaurant, Vanessa's face went completely white, and her ex-boyfriend Adrian actually got down on his knees. My name is Carter, I'm 34, and I work as a cybersecurity consultant. That detail matters, because the skills that help me protect companies from digital threats turned out to be exactly what I needed when a group of people decided I'd make good entertainment for their weekend. Looking back, I should have known something was off when Rachel matched with me on the dating app. Not because she wasn't attractive, she was stunning with this effortless elegance that made her profile stand out. But her opening message was almost too perfect. Too interested in my work, too enthusiastic about my hobbies, too eager to meet up quickly. In my line of work, I've learned that when something seems designed to be exactly what you want, it usually is. We'd been messaging for about a week when she suggested meeting at Marcello's, this upscale Italian place downtown that I'd actually mentioned loving in my profile. She wanted to meet on Friday night at 7. I agreed, though something in my gut kept nagging at me. Maybe it was the way she steered conversations back to specific topics. Maybe it was how she asked about my dating history with just a little too much focus. Or maybe it was the cybersecurity analyst in me recognizing patterns in data that didn't quite add up. The Monday before our date, I did something I'm not particularly proud of, but my instincts were screaming. I ran a reverse image search on her photos. Nothing came up. They were real, original images. Then I looked at her social media. Her Instagram was public, and that's where things got interesting. Vanessa, her real name, not Rachel, had plenty of posts, but what caught my attention was a photo from 3 weeks ago. She was at a bar with 3 other women, all of them laughing at something off camera. The caption read, "These bitches keep me sane." Of my girls, I clicked through to the tagged profiles. Melissa, Jenna, and Kira, all in their late 20s, all local, all with public profiles full of the same kinds of posts, brunches, clubs, beach days, and a lot of posts about loyalty and real ones. Then I found something that made my chest tight. A post from Jenna from 2 months ago, a screenshot of a text conversation. Most of it was cropped out, but the visible portion said, "And then he actually believed me. Men are so stupid." Dozens of comments calling men easy and predictable. That could have been about anything, could have been harmless. But combined with everything else, my radar was pinging hard. I spent Tuesday and Wednesday watching Vanessa's social media more carefully. She posted a story on Tuesday night, a mirror selfie with the caption, "Friday can't come soon enough." Then, in a detail most people wouldn't notice, she screenshot messaged someone. The preview bubble at the top of her phone showed a message that started with Operation, before the screen went black. She'd posted it accidentally and deleted it within minutes, but I'd already captured it. By Thursday, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to cancel. I was going to see exactly what Operation was all about. But I wasn't going in blind. I called my friend Troy, who works in private investigation. We've worked together on a few corporate espionage cases. I explained the situation, and he didn't even hesitate. "You want me there," he said. It wasn't a question. "I want you there," I confirmed. "But not obvious. I need to know what's happening around me that I can't see." Troy understood immediately. He'd position himself at the bar with a clear view of my table and the surrounding area. He'd be recording video and audio, completely legal in our state as long as it's in a public place with no expectation of privacy. A restaurant absolutely qualified. I also prepared my own insurance. I wore a shirt with a button that wasn't actually a button. It was a camera, another Troy special. The thing recorded in 4K with audio feeding to a memory card in my pocket. I also had my phone set to record audio in my jacket pocket, backed up to cloud storage in real time. Was I being paranoid? Maybe. But in my profession, paranoia is called threat assessment, and it's kept me and my clients safe for over a decade. Friday arrived. I dressed well, charcoal suit, no tie, expensive watch. If this was going to be a show, I'd look the part. I arrived at Marcello's at 6:45, 15 minutes early. I scanned the restaurant. Troy was already at the bar, looking every bit the businessman having an after-work drink. He caught my eye for a fraction of a second, then looked away. His position was perfect. The hostess led me to a table in the center of the dining room. Interesting choice for a first date. Most people prefer something more private. This table had sightlines to almost the entire restaurant. I sat facing the entrance and waited. Vanessa arrived at 7:03. She looked even better than her photos, emerald dress, confident walk, perfect smile. She spotted me and waved, then made her way over. I stood to greet her. "Carter," she said, extending her hand. I'm so glad we're finally doing this. Sorry I'm a little late. Traffic was insane. No worries at all, I said, shaking her hand and pulling out her chair. You look amazing. Thank you, she said, sitting down. You clean up pretty well yourself. The waiter appeared almost immediately, too quickly actually, like he'd been watching for her arrival. She ordered a glass of white wine. I ordered sparkling water. Not drinking, she asked, one eyebrow raised. I like to keep a clear head on first dates, I said with a smile. Want to make sure I remember everything. She laughed, but there was something forced about it. That's actually really sweet. We made small talk for the first 10 minutes. She asked about my work, my hobbies, my family. All normal first date questions, but she kept glancing around the restaurant. Not nervously, more like she was looking for someone, or checking if someone was watching. That's when I spotted them. 3 women at a table near the far wall, partially obscured by a decorative screen. I wouldn't have noticed them except one of them, a brunette in a red dress, leaned too far while trying to look at our table, and the screen shifted. Melissa, Jenna, and Kira. Vanessa's friends from Instagram. They were all watching us, phones out, barely containing their amusement. Everything clicked into place. This wasn't just a setup. This was entertainment. They were here to watch whatever humiliation they'd planned. I didn't let my expression change. Instead, I refocused on Vanessa, who was telling some story about her job in marketing. I nodded along, asked follow-up questions, played the part of the interested date, but my mind was racing through possibilities. What was the prank? Were they going to embarrass me somehow? Have someone interrupt claiming to be my girlfriend? Stage a scene? Or was Vanessa supposed to do something, maybe escalate things and then reject me publicly? Then I noticed something else. A man at the bar, maybe 35, athletic build, designer clothes. He was watching our table with an intensity that went beyond casual interest. Every time Vanessa laughed or touched my arm, his jaw clenched. And when I looked closer, I recognized him from Vanessa's Instagram. Adrian. Her ex-boyfriend from the photos I'd seen buried in her feed from 8 months ago. The picture was getting clearer, and it was worse than I thought. Our food arrived. Vanessa had been escalating the flirtation, touching my hand, laughing at everything I said, leaning in close. It would have been flattering if I didn't know what I knew. I played along, matching her energy, complimenting her, maintaining eye contact. I could see her friends trying not to laugh. I could see Adrian's knuckles going white as he gripped his glass. Halfway through the meal, Vanessa excused herself to the restroom. The moment she was out of sight, I pulled out my phone and texted Troy. 3 women far wall, partially hidden by screen. Man at bar in blue shirt, all connected to her. Recording everything. His response came immediately. Got it all. The ex at the bar is particularly interesting. He's been texting someone constantly. Want me to run plates on the car they all arrived in? Do it, I sent back. Vanessa returned a few minutes later, freshening up more than necessary. Her friends were barely pretending not to watch anymore. Adrian had ordered another drink, his third since I'd been counting. So, Vanessa said, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone, I have to admit I was a little nervous about meeting you. Sometimes online chemistry doesn't translate in person, you know. I completely understand, I said. But I'm really glad we took the chance. You're even more incredible than I imagined. She beamed. That's so sweet. You know what? I feel really comfortable with you, Carter, like we've known each other longer than a week. I feel the same way, I lied smoothly. It's rare to connect like this. She reached across the table and took my hand. Can I tell you something crazy? Of course. I didn't think I was ready to date again. My last relationship ended pretty badly a few months ago. But talking to you made me think maybe I was ready to try again. I squeezed her hand gently. I'm sorry you went through something difficult, but I'm glad you gave us a chance. Behind her, I could see her friends with their phones out, probably recording this. Adrian had turned fully on his barstool to watch, no longer pretending to be casual about it. Vanessa leaned in closer. Would you think I'm crazy if I said I'd really like to see you again, like maybe this weekend? I think you're honest, I said. And I'd like that too. She smiled, and for a moment I almost felt bad for her. Then I remembered this was all theater, all designed to humiliate me somehow, though I still wasn't sure of the exact mechanism. The waiter brought dessert menus. Vanessa suggested we share the tiramisu. As we waited for it to arrive, she excused herself again, and I watched her walk directly past her friend's table. No acknowledgement, but one of them, Melissa, got up and followed her toward the restrooms. Troy texted me. The car they arrived in is registered to Jenna Patterson. 1 speeding ticket, 2 parking violations, but more interesting, just ran social media crosscheck. All 4 women worked together at a marketing firm until 6 months ago. all left around the same time, different reasons listed. The ex, Adrian Westbrook, owns a luxury car dealership downtown. Also has 2 restraining orders filed against him by previous girlfriends, not granted but filed. That information painted a picture. Adrian wasn't just an ex, he was someone with a pattern of controlling behavior, and these women had stayed loyal to him even after Vanessa supposedly broke up with him, unless they never actually broke up. Unless the whole thing was a setup from the start and I was just the latest target, the tiramisu arrived. Vanessa returned and we shared it, continuing our conversation. She was good, I'll give her that. If I hadn't done my research, I'd have no idea this was anything but a promising first date. As we finished dessert, Vanessa's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it and her expression shifted just for a second, but I caught it. Excitement mixed with something else. Anticipation. Everything okay? I asked. Oh yeah, just my roommate checking in, she said. She's overprotective sometimes. The check arrived. I reached for it immediately, but Vanessa put her hand on mine. Let's split it, she said. I'm a modern woman. Absolutely not, I said. With a smile. You can get the next one. Deal, she said, and her smile seemed genuine for the first time all night. I paid the check and we stood to leave. As we walked toward the exit, Vanessa linked her arm through mine. I could feel eyes on us from multiple directions, her friends Adrian, probably others who'd been watching the show without realizing it was a show. We stopped outside the restaurant under the warm glow of the streetlights. It was a beautiful night, the kind that makes downtown feel almost romantic. Thank you for tonight, Vanessa said, standing close. I had a really wonderful time. Me too, I said. Really wonderful. She looked up at me and for a moment I thought she might actually feel guilty about whatever was coming next. Then she leaned in, tilting her head up like she was going to kiss me. I met her halfway, and just before our lips touched, I heard rapid footsteps behind us. Vanessa. We broke apart and I turned to see Adrian storming toward us, his face twisted in rage. Vanessa's eyes went wide, but not with surprise, with something closer to satisfaction. Adrian, she said, her voice perfectly calibrated to sound shocked. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? He shouted, loud enough to turn heads from people passing by. What the hell are you doing here with him? I stepped slightly in front of Vanessa, protective instinct kicking in despite knowing this was staged. Hey man, I think you need to calm down. Calm down? Adrian got in my face, close enough that I could smell the alcohol on his breath. You're trying to steal my girlfriend? Your girlfriend? I said, looking back at Vanessa. I thought you said you were single. Vanessa had tears in her eyes now, impressively real-looking tears. Carter, I'm so sorry, I am single. Adrian and I broke up months ago, he just won't accept it. Broke up. Adrian's voice cracked. Baby, we had a fight. That doesn't mean we broke up. Tell him, tell him. You're still mine. This was the play. I could see it clearly now. They'd crafted this scene carefully. Adrian plays the obsessive ex, makes a scene, probably gets physical or threatening. I either fight back and look like an aggressive asshole, or I back down and look like a coward. Either way, they get their content, their entertainment, their story to tell. Meanwhile, Vanessa plays the poor victim caught between 2 men, probably getting sympathy and attention from everyone watching. I should have been angry. Part of me was. But mostly I was calculating. I had everything recorded from multiple angles. Troy had captured the entire dinner, including the moments when Vanessa glanced at her friends, when Adrian glared at our table, when Melissa followed Vanessa to the bathroom. My button camera had recorded every word, every expression, but I needed the finale. I needed them to commit fully before I revealed what I knew. Look, I said to Adrian, keeping my voice calm and reasonable. I don't know what your situation is, but Vanessa told me she was single. If that's not true, I'm sorry for the confusion and I'll back off, but you need to step back and stop making a scene. A scene? Adrian laughed, harsh and bitter. You think this is a scene? I'll show you a scene. He moved toward me and I tensed, ready to defend myself if necessary, but Vanessa stepped between us, her hands on Adrian's chest. Adrian, stop, she said, her voice breaking. Just stop. Carter's right. We're done. We've been done. You need to move on. I can't move on, Adrian shouted. I love you. Doesn't that mean anything anymore? The performance was Academy Award worthy. Passers-by had stopped to watch. Some had phones out. Vanessa's friends had emerged from the restaurant, looking concerned in that theatrical way people do when they're pretending to care. Oh my God, Vanessa, are you okay? Melissa called out, rushing over. We saw everything through the window, Jenna added. Right on cue, Kira was already filming, not even trying to hide it anymore. This was it. This was their moment. The big climax where the drama peaked, where I was supposed to either retreat in embarrassment or fight Adrian and look like the bad guy. They'd have their video, their story, their entertainment. Vanessa would get sympathy and attention. Adrian would play the heartbroken lover, and I'd be the joke they'd laugh about for weeks, except they'd made one critical mistake. They'd assumed I was just another target, another random guy who'd stumble into their game without knowing the rules. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened my recording app where every word from the evening was stored and backed up. Then I looked at Vanessa, at Adrian, at the friends closing in like a Greek chorus, and I smiled. "That's a really compelling performance," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "All of you, really, it's impressive." Vanessa's tears stopped like someone had flipped a switch. "What?" "The prank," I said calmly. "The setup. Operation, what was it? Operation Humiliate Random Guy? Operation Entertainment Friday Night." The color drained from Vanessa's face. Adrian's aggressive posture faltered. The friends stopped mid-step. "I don't know what you're talking about," Vanessa said, but her voice had lost its conviction. "Really?" I pulled up her Instagram, the screenshot I'd saved of her story with the partial message visible. "Operation something, posted Tuesday night. Deleted immediately, but not before I grabbed it. Combined with the fact that your friends have been watching us all night from behind that decorative screen and your ex-boyfriend has been sitting at the bar glaring at me for the past hour, it's pretty clear what's happening here." Melissa stepped forward. "You're paranoid. We're just having dinner and Adrian ran into Vanessa by coincidence. At Marcello's, the exact restaurant she suggested at the exact time where you all just happened to be, and Adrian just happened to be at the bar." I looked at Troy, who was standing near the restaurant entrance now, camera visible in his hand. "My friend has about 90 minutes of footage showing all four of you coordinating, checking your phones, trying not to laugh while watching our table. He's also got audio of Adrian telling the bartender, and I quote, 'Just wait, this is going to be hilarious.'" Adrian's face went red. "That doesn't mean anything." "It means you coordinated this," I said. "You created a fake dating profile, Vanessa matched with me, flirted with me, got me to meet her here where her friends and ex-boyfriend were waiting to stage some kind of dramatic confrontation. What was the end game? Get me to fight Adrian? Make me look stupid on camera? Both?" "You're insane," Vanessa said, but she was backing away. "Am I?" I held up my phone. "Because I've got recordings of this entire night. Every word, every glance at your friends. Every forced laugh. The moment Melissa followed you to the bathroom during dessert to coordinate timing. All of it." Kira lowered her phone, her face pale. "Those recordings are illegal," Jenna said, but she didn't sound confident. "Actually, no," I said. "We're in a public space. There's no expectation of privacy in a restaurant. Everything I recorded is completely legal. Same with my friend's footage. We're both cybersecurity professionals, so we tend to know the laws around documentation and surveillance." Troy stepped forward, camera still rolling. "I've also got footage of all four of you arriving together, parking in the same car, coordinating inside before you took your table. And Adrian, I've got you on camera texting someone at 6:58 p.m. with the message." She just sat down with him. "Give it an hour, then I'll make my entrance. You want to claim coincidence now." The silence that followed was deafening. People were still watching, but the energy had shifted. Now they were looking at Vanessa and her friends with suspicion and disgust. "It was just a joke," Vanessa finally said, her voice small. "It wasn't supposed to be a big deal." "A joke," I repeated. "You created an elaborate fake scenario to humiliate a stranger for entertainment, and you think that's a joke?" "People do pranks all the time," Melissa said defensively. "It's not that serious." "Pranks are supposed to be funny for everyone," I said. "This was cruelty. You wanted to embarrass me, make me look stupid or aggressive, and film it for content. That's not a prank, that's targeted harassment." Adrian found his voice again, anger replacing embarrassment. "So what? You figured it out. Big deal. What are you going to do about it?" "Well," I said, glancing at Troy, "I'm going to make sure these recordings are stored safely. Then I'm going to reach out to a lawyer friend of mine because what you did tonight crosses some interesting legal lines. Fraud, for one. Vanessa created a fake identity to lure me here. Conspiracy to harass, potential assault depending on how far Adrian was planning to take his confrontation. And defamation if you'd posted any of this online claiming I was harassing Vanessa or threatening Adrian." "You can't prove any of that," Adrian said, but he'd lost his bluster. "Actually, I can prove all of it," I said. "I've got documentation, timestamps, messages, social media posts." "Troy's been running background checks all night. We know you and Vanessa aren't actually broken up. You've been photographed together as recently as last weekend at a car show, Adrian. We know all four of you planned this together, and we have everything on record. Vanessa looked at her friends, then at Adrian, then back at me. What do you want? Want? I considered that. Honestly, I want you to understand how messed up this is. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through, what insecurities I might have, what this kind of setup could have done to me. Psychologically, you treated another human being like a prop in your entertainment. We're sorry, Jenna said, but it sounded hollow. Are you? I looked at each of them. Or are you just sorry you got caught? No one answered. I put my phone away. Here's what's going to happen. I'm leaving. Troy and I are keeping these recordings. If any version of tonight shows up online, any post, any story, any video claiming I was the aggressor or that I harassed anyone, these recordings go public and we pursue legal action. Understood? They nodded, defeated. And Adrian, I looked at him directly. I looked into you. 2 women have filed restraining orders against you. They weren't granted, but they were filed. That speaks to a pattern of behavior. If I were you, I'd think really carefully about how you treat people going forward, because eventually someone's going to make charges stick. Adrian's face went from red to white. He didn't say anything. I turned to Vanessa one last time. You're beautiful. You're clearly smart enough to orchestrate something like this, and you've got loyal friends. You could have used all of that to be someone worth knowing. Instead, you used it for this. That's sad. Then I walked away. Troy fell into step beside me, still recording until we turned the corner. We got to my car, and I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My hands were shaking, adrenaline, anger, relief all mixed together. That was something, Troy said, uploading all his footage to a secure cloud server. You handled that perfectly. I wanted to punch him, I admitted. When he got in my face, every instinct was screaming to drop him. But you didn't, Troy said, because you're smarter than that. They wanted you to react physically. That was the whole setup, get you to fight Adrian, film it, make you look like the violent aggressor. You didn't give them that. Because you were there, I said. Because I had backup evidence, documentation, without. That I would have been one man's word against 5 people's coordinated story. Troy nodded. That's why we do what we do, man. Information is protection. We grabbed late-night food and went through all the footage. Between Troy's camera and my button cam, we had everything. Every glance Vanessa made at her friends. Every time Adrian checked his phone for timing. Melissa following Vanessa to the bathroom. All of it was clear, documented, time-stamped. What are you actually going to do with this? Troy asked. Right now, nothing, I said. I meant what I told them. If they leave me alone, I leave them alone. But if they try to spin this, if they claim I harassed them or threatened them or anything else, this all becomes evidence. And the lawyer already texted her, I said. She's reviewing everything. If they make a move, we're ready. But my guess, they're too embarrassed to do anything. I was right. Over the next few days, I monitored social media carefully. Nothing from Vanessa, nothing from her friends, nothing from Adrian. No posts about a crazy date, no stories about a confrontation, no attempts to paint me as anything other than what I was, a guy who figured out their game and called them on it. But I did get a message. Not from Vanessa, from someone else entirely. It came through my professional email 3 days after the incident. The subject line read, "You helped my sister." Inside, the message explained that the sender's sister had been one of the women who'd filed a restraining order against Adrian. It hadn't been granted because she couldn't prove he'd done anything technically illegal, but he'd made her life hell for months after she broke up with him. Stalking her social media, showing up at her work, spreading rumors about her to mutual friends. She'd finally moved to a different city to get away from him. The message continued. I heard through mutual friends what happened at Marcello's. I heard you recorded everything and confronted him. I don't know you, but thank you. My sister spent months being gaslit and told she was overreacting, knowing that someone else saw through him and had the proof to back it up. It means something. She wanted me to tell you that. I sat with that message for a long time. It reframed everything. This wasn't just about me avoiding humiliation. This was about a pattern of behavior, about people like Adrian getting away with manipulation because they operated in spaces where proof was scarce and victims were isolated. I responded to the message, thanking them for reaching out. I asked if their sister would be willing to speak with my lawyer friend, not to reopen old wounds, but because documented patterns matter. Multiple incidents create a case that one incident never could, she agreed. Within a week, my lawyer had statements from both women who'd filed restraining orders, documentation of Adrian's behavior going back 3 years, and our footage from Marcello's. She compiled it all into a comprehensive file. This is solid, she told me over coffee. If Adrian steps out of line with anyone else, this exists. It's documented. It's ready. And more importantly, he knows it exists now because I sent him a very formal letter explaining that we have this file and will provide it to authorities if needed. How'd he respond? I asked. He didn't, she said with a satisfied smile. Which is exactly the response we want. He's scared, as he should be. 2 weeks after the incident, I got another message. This one was from Vanessa. Carter, I know I don't deserve a response, but I need to say this. You were right about everything. What we did was cruel and messed up. I've been thinking about it nonstop since that night. Adrian convinced us it would be funny, that you'd laugh about it eventually, that everyone does pranks like this. But watching your face when you called us out, you weren't angry. You were disappointed, like you expected better from people. That's been haunting me. I broke up with Adrian for real this time. He's manipulative and controlling, and I'd convinced myself that was normal. That night showed me it isn't. I also cut off Melissa, Jenna, and Kira. They thought the whole thing was hilarious even after you exposed us. They wanted to do it to someone else, said we just needed to be more careful next time. I realized I'd surrounded myself with people who think cruelty is entertainment, not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that what you did that night changed something for me. You could have just walked away when you figured it out. Instead, you stayed and made us face what we'd done. That took courage. I deleted all my dating apps. I'm taking time to figure out who I actually am when I'm not performing for my friends or trying to please a guy like Adrian. I'm also starting therapy because I need to understand why I thought any of this was okay. I hope you find someone who deserves you. Someone real, thank you for teaching me a lesson I desperately needed. I read the message 3 times. Part of me wanted to ignore it. She didn't deserve closure or absolution. But another part of me, the part that had seen genuine remorse in her words, wanted to respond. I kept it brief. I appreciate you reaching out. I hope therapy helps. We all have the capacity to be better than our worst moments. Good luck. She didn't respond, and I didn't expect her to. That was the end of it. Life returned to normal after that. Work picked up with a major client needing a complete security overhaul. Troy and I collaborated on a few more cases. I went back to my regular routine, minus the dating apps. The whole experience had left me wary of online dating, at least temporarily. Then, about 6 weeks after the Marcello's incident, something unexpected happened. I was at a coffee shop near my office, working on a laptop during my lunch break, when someone approached my table. "Excuse me, are you Carter?" I looked up to see a woman in her early 30s, professional attire, kind eyes, holding a coffee cup nervously. "I am," I said cautiously, my radar immediately up. "Do I know you?" "No, not exactly," she said. "My name is Lauren. I'm friends with Monica, the woman whose sister filed a restraining order against Adrian Westbrook. She mentioned you helped compile information about him." "Ah," I said, relaxing slightly. "Yes, how is Monica's sister doing?" "Much better, actually," Lauren said. "That's kind of why I wanted to talk to you. Is it okay if I sit for a minute?" I gestured to the empty chair. She sat, setting down her coffee with hands that shook slightly. "Monica told me what you did at that restaurant," Lauren said. "How you figured out the setup and documented everything. How you didn't just walk away, you confronted them and made sure there were consequences." "I did what felt right," I said. "They were targeting people for entertainment. That needed to stop." "Well, it meant something," Lauren said. "Because Monica's sister isn't the only person Adrian's done this to. There are at least 4 other women who have had similar experiences with him, some worse. None of them felt like they could come forward because he's wealthy, well-connected, and good at making victims look crazy. But now they can," I said, understanding where this was going. "Now they can," Lauren confirmed. "Your documentation, combined with their testimonies, has given them the foundation to pursue legal action. Real action. They're filing a joint complaint with the police for stalking and harassment. They're also pursuing a civil suit." I sat back, processing this. "I just wanted to protect myself that night. I didn't realize it would lead to this." "That's the thing about standing up," Lauren said softly. "You never know who's watching, who's waiting for someone else to go first, who needed to see that resistance was possible." We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me about the other women, their stories, how they'd found each other through mutual friends and social media, how they'd been planning to do something for months but didn't have enough evidence to make it stick, how my recordings and the lawyer's file had been the missing piece. "I know this is a lot to drop on you during your lunch break," Lauren said as she stood to leave. "But I wanted you to know that what you did mattered. It mattered to Monica's sister. It matters to these other women." And it matters to people like me. People like you? I asked. She smiled, sad but genuine. People who have been on the receiving end of pranks and setups and jokes that aren't funny. People who have been made to feel crazy for saying it wasn't okay. You showed that it's possible to fight back with intelligence and documentation instead of just anger. That's powerful. After she left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, not working, just thinking. I'd gone to Marcello's expecting a prank, maybe some embarrassment, possibly a story I'd tell friends with a self-deprecating laugh. Instead, I'd stumbled into something bigger, a pattern of abuse, a network of enablers, and a system that protected people like Adrian because victims couldn't prove what had been done to them. The recordings I'd made weren't just about protecting myself. They'd become evidence in something much larger. They'd given other people the courage to come forward because someone had finally documented what they'd all experienced. 3 months after the Marcello's incident, I got an email from my lawyer. Adrian had settled the civil suit. The terms were confidential, but the women involved had gotten both financial compensation and written admissions of wrongdoing. More importantly, the criminal complaint had resulted in a formal stalking charge and a court-mandated restraining order that covered all the women who'd filed complaints. If he violated it, he'd face jail time. You started this, my lawyer told me. Your recordings, your willingness to confront them, your documentation, it all created the foundation. Those women got justice because you refused to be a victim. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like someone who'd done the bare minimum, protected himself, and helped others when the opportunity arose. But maybe that was the point. Maybe heroism isn't about grand gestures. Maybe it's about refusing to accept cruelty as normal, documenting the truth, and standing up even when it would be easier to walk away. I eventually went back to dating, but smarter this time. I met Sarah at an industry conference. She's a data analyst for a healthcare company. No apps, no setup, just 2 professionals who started talking during a boring keynote and realized we had chemistry. We've been dating for 4 months now, and it's real. Genuine. No performance, no games, no hidden cameras or coordinated friends waiting to see me fail. The Marcello's incident taught me valuable lessons. It taught me to trust my instincts. They're usually right. It taught me that documentation is power in a world where truth is often contested. It taught me that confronting wrongdoing, even when it's uncomfortable, can create ripples that help people you'll never meet. But most importantly, it taught me that strength isn't about physical confrontation or aggressive displays. Real strength is staying calm when others want you to lose control. It's gathering evidence when others rely on chaos. It's speaking truth when others depend on your silence. I still have all the recordings backed up in multiple secure locations. I probably always will, not because I expect to need them, but because they're a reminder. A reminder that in a world where people sometimes treat others as entertainment, having proof of the truth matters, being prepared matters, and refusing to play along with cruelty matters. Vanessa never contacted me again after that one message. I heard through mutual connections that she'd moved to a different city, was working at a new company, and had genuinely committed to therapy. I hope that's true. I hope she found a way to become the person she could have been all along. As for Melissa, Jenna, and Kira, I don't know what happened to them. I blocked them on all platforms and never looked back. Some people learn from their mistakes. Some people don't. I didn't have the energy to find out which category they fell into. Adrian lost his dealership about 6 months after the settlement. I don't know if it was the legal fees, the reputation damage, or just the consequences of his behavior finally catching up with him. I didn't follow his story closely. He'd taken up enough of my time and energy. Troy and I still work together occasionally. We've made the button camera a standard part of our security toolkit now. You never know when documentation will turn out to be crucial. We've helped several other people in situations where they suspected setup or manipulation. Most of them turn out to be nothing. A few have been as serious as my experience at Marcello's. Looking back now, almost a year later, I'm grateful for that night. Not because I enjoyed it, I didn't. Not because it was fun, it wasn't. But because it showed me something important about myself. When I was backed into a corner, when I was targeted and manipulated and set up to fail, I didn't break. I didn't lash out. I didn't become the villain they wanted me to be. Instead, I stayed calm, gathered evidence, and exposed the truth. I used intelligence instead of aggression, strategy instead of emotion, and in doing so, I didn't just protect myself. I helped create a foundation that protected other people who'd been hurt by the same person. That's not something I planned. It's not something I expected, but it's something I'm proud of. The world is full of people who treat others as props in their entertainment, who set up pranks that aren't funny, who manipulate and gaslight and hurt for their own amusement. And for a long time, they get away with it because their victims are isolated, unprepared, and unable to prove what happened. But documentation changes that equation. Truth changes it. Courage changes it. I wasn't special that night at Marcello's. I was just prepared, aware, and unwilling to accept that cruelty was normal. And apparently that was enough to start something bigger than myself. If I could go back and avoid the whole situation, would I? Honestly, I don't know. It was stressful, uncomfortable, and anger-inducing. But it also showed me what I was capable of. It connected me to people I never would have met. It helped bring justice to people who deserved it, so maybe I wouldn't change it. Maybe I'd do it all exactly the same way, except next time I'd order the chicken parmigiana instead of the salmon. The salmon at Marcello's was overcooked. That's the thing about life-changing moments. They're rarely perfect. They're messy and complicated, and sometimes the fish is dry. But they're real. And in a world full of fake dating profiles and staged confrontations and performances designed to deceive, real matters. It matters more than almost anything else. Sarah and I went to Marcello's last week, actually. She wanted to see where the incident happened, as she calls it. We sat at a different table. I requested one by the window and had a genuinely nice dinner. No drama, no setup, no hidden friends filming from behind decorative screens. Just two people who actually liked each other, enjoying a meal, talking about real things. Our work, our families, our hopes for the future. Simple, honest. Real. The waiter recognized me from that night. He pulled me aside as we were leaving and said, "I remember you. I saw the whole thing. I wanted you to know. We all thought what you did was incredible. The way you handled it, the way you exposed them without losing your cool. That took real class." I thanked him and tipped well. As Sarah and I walked out of the restaurant past the spot where I'd confronted Vanessa and Adrian, I felt something I hadn't expected: closure, peace, the sense that a chapter had definitively ended and a better one had begun. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said as we walked to the car. "In a weird way, I'm glad that whole thing happened to you." "Oh yeah," I said, raising an eyebrow. "Why's that?" "Because if it hadn't, you'd probably still be on that dating app and we never would have met," she said. "You would have kept swiping, I would have stayed focused on work, and we'd both be missing out on this." She had a point. The Marcello's incident had made me delete all my dating apps, which had led me to be more present at the conference, which had led me to actually talk to Sarah instead of scrolling through my phone during the boring keynote. Funny how life works sometimes. How the worst night can inadvertently lead to better things. How being targeted and manipulated can teach you to recognize authenticity when you finally find it. I don't believe everything happens for a reason. That's too convenient, too simplistic. But I do believe that how we respond to what happens shapes who we become. And I'd rather be someone who documents truth and confronts injustice than someone who walks away to avoid discomfort. Even if it means occasionally having to wear a button camera and outsmart people who think cruelty is entertainment, the recordings still exist. The file still exists. The evidence still exists. And if Adrian or anyone like him tries again, it'll be there. Ready, documented, undeniable, because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Protect ourselves, help others when we can, and refuse to let cruelty become normal, one documented truth at a time.